vibe has shifted. The vibe has shifted big time, in my opinion. Right? You could feel it in the air, in the ether. You can feel that things are different. Right? People are acting different. People are saying things more boldly, more confidently. There are people like I remember the first of all, the Trump election, right? We can talk about the Trump election, but the Trump election this time has had a completely different effect. Not about completely different, but a mostly different effect. I remember when the 2016 thing happened, I was working at a place. Excuse me. And those people, a lot of the people that were working there, it was like, 80% Trump supporters that worked there. You would think it was like 30% because the Trump supporters didn't want to talk. Like they didn't want to talk about it. If you really, really pressed them, they would say it, but they didn't come out and say it. Now it's like you got motherfuckers like shouting in the streets and shit. People, there's like sometimes I'm standing in line at the grocery store and some guy's like, "Yeah, I can't wait for the deportations." Like
that's so dope.
I don't know if Trump's actually going to do that. I think. And we've talked about this before. We had a whole episode about Donald Trump. What he like the energy that comes with him, I think is more important than him himself.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And things have shifted. I mean, it's become very, very clear since he was elected. Really, even in the run up to the election, memories are so short. I'm even starting to forget about a lot of this stuff, but seeing Elon Musk go on Joe Rogan and basically be like, this is the election. This is the real flight, whatever it was, the Flight 97 election. You know what I mean? I don't know if did you ever read that article from back in 2016 or 2015 or whatever it was? Some guy who it turned out to be, some sort of like deep state guy or whatever. His name's Michael Anton. Wrote an anonymous article back in 2015 called "The Flight 97 Election." I think that's whatever that flight was. So during 9/11, there was during the actual event, there was do you remember the thing where the people who were on the plane that crashed into the Pentagon rushed the cockpit and said there was like some famous like thing or whatever. I forget what they said. It's like Russian boys or something like that. I don't know what it was. But anyway, there was this like thing where during like on that flight that like eventually crashed and everybody died, they rushed the cockpit and like forced the hijackers to, I guess, like crash the plane into the side of the building instead of some other whatever in the middle or some other wherever else they would have crashed it. And that was Flight 97. And this guy wrote an article that was like, it's the Flight 97 election. This is the last chance. We have to rush the cockpit, which means we have to vote for Trump and not Hillary. Because if we don't do that, we're fucked. Basically, like everyone's going to die, So that was back then, but that was one person writing anonymously. And somebody it turns out like, yes, this guy like held some position. He was like some ex-advisor to somebody, or I don't know what it was, but relatively low profile. But this time around, 8 years later, it was like you had huge people like Elon Musk and others basically coming out and being like, we need to turn this ship around. This is the real Flight 97 election. If we don't do it now, America is toast, and we're gonna be eaten alive by China and Russia and all of these things, right? And it was just such a huge shift, even from the 2015 election, which had a lot of energy to it. That this was very, very different and really intense. The vibe had shifted. Clearly, elite opinion has moved since then. And this was pretty apparent going in the run up to the election. Like Joe Biden, like just basically is revealed to like actually be a vegetable. Kamala Harris is, tapped to be like the the candidate and has no support, no organic support. Nobody likes her. There's no memes about her, and there's nothing. You know what I mean? But even before that, I had kind of noticed something at the beginning of the year. Now, this was only I could have really seen this because it concerned Imperium Press. We had an article that was written about us at the beginning of the year in January. It was like after Christmas, we got this surprise. The Guardian is going to run a hit piece on Imperium Press. So they did that, and we responded to it, and they printed a couple of things that we said and everything like that. So it was kind of like damage control, but I was ready basically for Imperium to get completely fucking canceled. If that article had dropped in 2017, or especially in 2020 or whatever, right? Just as the deep state was really starting to try to consolidate its grip on power, Imperium would have been canceled. Like, we would have just been, there might have even been, legal problems for us.
Yeah.
Right. It would have been bad news, but they printed the article, and the fallout from the article consisted of us getting a big bump in our audience. That was it, which was pretty cool. I obviously, I was a little bit nervous about what might happen, but nothing happened. Essentially, nothing happened. We just got a lot more eyes on us. So it was a big Streisand effect thing, right? It backfired. They just basically put a spotlight on us and no real pressure.
And the article was lazy.
It was. It almost seemed like they, got AI to write it or something. It was so lazy. And what's funny? I hadn't really said anything about this publicly, but the girl who wrote it, I don't know. It was weird because you can never really get a feeling over email. It's very hard to gauge people's emotional response or what they're really thinking when you're communicating by text and stuff. How that is. And by email as well. But it almost felt kind of like this girl who wrote the article actually didn't hate us and was kind of just a little curious about Imperium. It was weird. It was really weird. I don't know. I won't say anything about what the actual exchange was because I don't know. It's confidential, I guess. But it's I don't know. I got a feeling like she was kind of curious. You know what I mean? That it wasn't maybe this was just her way of trying to soften me up to open up and everything and get me to make a stupid move and trust her. But it really did kind of feel like it was lazy and phoned in at best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, the article came out and all it did was just give us a bigger audience, which was pretty cool. And at that point I'm like, wait a minute, something's different now. Things are moving in a different direction now. If this had, like I said, if this happened 4 years before, it would have been trouble. But here we are, and it was it wasn't a big deal. So at that point, I was sort of clued in the back of my mind that something's starting to shift. And, it may be that the Imperium is playing a small role in shifting the discourse. I'm aware of who reads the Substack to some extent. I'm aware of people who have a high profile that have talked about our books and things.
Yeah.
So it's we definitely have influenced people in some ways, even at a low level. But it's something bigger than that. There's definitely a shift that started to happen at least at the beginning of 2024 and had only accelerated going forward. We could conjecture about what the reasons for that might be. It might have some stuff to do with Ukraine. It probably has something to do with economic issues that are looming. And this is an attempt of the machine to kind of patch up some of the holes in the hull before the ship fucking sinks. But there's definitely been a shift towards the right in elite opinion. And my God, is that ever a white pill? It's such a white pill. I'm so excited about it.
I said this before, right? And I actually got blasted for this, but people don't realize. I think a lot of times guys form these opinions and have never really interacted with the hyper rich. The hyper rich don't give a fuck about ideology. They really, really don't. The guys that are the CEOs, guys that are in 3-piece suits, that are in high rises, that have offices with the crystal decanters of $100 bottles of whiskey. They don't give a fuck about ideology. They really don't. They want access to luxury. That's the only thing they care about. They want their boat. They want dime piece mistresses. They want mansions. They want to maintain their lifestyle. They don't care. They don't care. I've said this before, that a mustache man could come back to life, and then all of a sudden McDonald's would have swastikas on their Happy Meals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they literally don't care. They will go whichever direction they think is going to maintain their money and their lifestyle, even down to your tech bros and your low level millionaires and everything like that. Anything that keeps them from paying too much taxes, that keeps them loopholes, keeps them rich, keeps them living life lavishly, they will go with. I had a job where I worked. I didn't work with these guys, but I was in the vicinity of these kind of dudes, and I heard how they talk, and they just don't care. They don't care about these kinds of things. They think differently than we do about everything. The way that they interact with human beings, with other people, is completely different than we do. They look at every single person as either this is an opportunity to make more money, or it's a detriment to, this is keeping me from making money. Is this conversation going to lead somewhere or not? And if you talk to these kind of guys, you have a few seconds to get their attention, or else they're going to bounce out. They're not always like rude or whatever. It's, not all of them are like treating underlings like garbage or anything like that. But it's like, if you talk to them, they are constantly thinking time is money. They don't think like we do, right? We think the other way. We think, is this person a good person or a bad person? We moralize our reality instead of putting like monetary value on our reality. And here's the deal: is that the going narrative, the ESG and the leftoid narrative has hurt their money, right? They're coming. This is just my speculation, but they're like, oh shit, importing all these millions of third world fucking idiots is not going to make us more money. We need at least halfway smart people to run our factories, to work in the places, to press the buttons, to manage our shit. We need a government that isn't gonna like send mobs after us. We need XYZ. This is Elon Musk's entire thing. Well, I think Elon Musk has a little bit of a different motivation. I think Elon Musk, his entire thing is he's mad about his son. I really, really believe that.
Yeah.
I really believe that, because any chance that he gets, when he talks, he made a complete 180 when it comes to like talking about social issues. He went from being this is what they're like. We need a liberal Elon Musk, is what they say. Like, we need a left wing Elon Musk. And I'm like, you had one. His name was Elon Musk, and then you fucking pissed him off. You turned out his son, right? And now he's pissed at you, and now he's never going to let it go. And the way that guys like Elon Musk think is they think of long-term investment, right? He's not going to come out, and that's why guys like Elon Musk is this and that. Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Is he our guy? No, he's not our guy. He's his own guy. This is how guys like him are. He's kind of like in his own world. He understands that he's a man of power. He wields great wealth and great power because he has so much money. So he doesn't care about appealing to us, right? He doesn't need to. He has his own fucking thing, and in order to appeal to him, you have to appeal to him in a different kind of way. But the way that he looks at it is like, he's like, how can I fuck these guys over and harass them and play the long game and treat them like shit forever, right? So this is what, in my opinion, that he's doing. He's like, I'm going to be a slow burn, slow crawl disease in what they in everything that they love for the rest of time, and I'm going to slowly collapse everything that they've ever built. And that's, dude, him buying Twitter was humongous. I think people don't realize how big of a blow that was.
Yeah, and they knew it too at the time. They were aware that was going to be huge.
Yeah, that's why they got so mad. That's why they got so fucking mad. And I bet there's so much going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. I bet there's probably been like attempts on his life. I bet he has increased security. I bet that he's like probably like worried about what's in his food. You know, I bet he has a heightened awareness about this kind of stuff. It would not surprise me if they've tried to whack him at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's actually even a symptom of the decline of the competence of elites that he would be allowed to buy Twitter. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like any halfway serious regime would have blocked that shit immediately, right? But they're not. And I think that him being able to do that is actually an indication that somebody like him needs to come in and do his Doge thing, you know, Department of Government Efficiency, right? Because, you know, it's just stupid, right? Like, even though it's good that he did that, from their perspective, it's a disaster. Like, he was like, what happened from their perspective is that a rogue like element was able to come in and capture a major castle of the regime, right? One of the huge opinion forming institutions in their, you know, arsenal, and it's gone now, right? It belongs to a guy who has a vendetta against their ideology. Like, that in itself is a big fucking indication of how dumb they are, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And if you guys that are thinking about these elites think that, and I'm not just talking like, because Hollywood actors and stuff, they're not the elites. They're fucking puppets. They're just, they're the people that are way above them. Like, if we're talking about the guys in the suits and everything. If you guys seriously think that they, this like leftoid weirdo ideology, they like let their kids get exposed to it and they believe in it and stuff like that, you are mistaken. There is not an elite family or group or whatever on this planet that want their kids getting out, that want their kids turning into like lesbian weirdos that buy into this ideology. They exist in a different reality than we do. They probably still have arranged marriages or something close to it. Their daughters aren't allowed to go out and go whore about in college. They are still very conservative. These people are not, they're not bought into this kind of shit. So it's, the vibe has shifted. And what you're talking about it's not just Elon Musk and some of the tech bros and everything. It's also these big companies are now trying to quietly come crawling back and everything like that. Everybody saw that Apple ad, right? The Apple ad that came out. It was like this wholesome family. It's a wholesome white family during Christmas time. There's absolutely nothing woke about it. They know that they are going to make less money if woke keeps going. They know who butters their bread. They know who's got the money, who will buy their products, who will use Apple, who will use iPhones and iMacs, and who will use their shit and have the money to buy it and contribute to their shit. They know who the good programmers are. They know who are the people that will contribute to their company as employees. Tommy white dude who has the bachelor's degree in programming is who they want in there. They've had to deal with these H-1B visas for so long that create crap, and as a result they produce inferior products. You know what I mean? Now obviously I think that's gonna keep going in some fashion. We're gonna, that is yet to be seen whether they're gonna shut all of that down. But I think that they've come around and they're like, fuck, if we don't want to collapse and we want to maintain our lifestyle, we want to maintain being successful and everything like that, worse is worse and better is better. And, we got to go with what's better, because worse means that we don't exist anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think what's kind of happened more broadly in the in the mainstream and at the center, right, in the center of power, is this grudging admission that liberalism, at least neoliberalism, is a failed ideology that is an engine for the production of incompetence, and that if we don't get our shit together, basically, that our lunch is going to be eaten by all these other competing powers. It's finally, if not in the rhetoric, then certainly in the reality of what's being discussed in the halls of power. The global, empire or whatever, the American empire has admitted that we now live in a world of plurality, right? We now live in a geopolitical reality where there are other great powers, and that we're going to have to put our house in order if we want to survive, right? If you think about what happened in the last, 4 years at the very minimum, right? Everybody that has half a brain is aware that there was the election that happened in 2020 was at the very, very bare minimum suspicious, right? And probably, I think what happened is that the man in the street got the first idea that democracy isn't a thing and that his vote doesn't count for anything. I think most people, whether on the right or the left, not the far left, but certainly, going from all the way from, the folkish sphere, trending leftward towards, the center left people, understood in their hearts that their vote didn't count. I think people got that message. And that is a very dangerous position for the center to be in, for the center of power, that is. It's a very dangerous position for their legitimating myth to have collapsed. And it has. It has collapsed. That's very bad. Very, very bad for them. Another thing that's happened is that there was a foolish war that was entered into. There was a really, really dumb geopolitical calculation that was made that we were going to be able to bring into the NATO orbit a satellite state of Russia, essentially. And we thought that Russia was just going to lie down and take it. And what ended up happening is that it just became clear over a course of years that the U.S. is now unable to run color revolutions, unlike, for the last 50 years. It's become clear that 5G warfare, and by that I mean basically informational warfare and indirect warfare by lawfare, as well as economic sanctions and things like that. We in the West do not have the power to push over some of these other great powers anymore, right? Yeah. The West mustered its entire everything in its arsenal. It basically took its whole hand of cards, laid them on the table, and tried to push over Russia's economy with sanctions, and it didn't work. And now this is an economy that is somewhere on a par in terms of GDP, at least, with Italy. Okay? So think about that for a second. Think of the level of geopolitical power, the disparity of power between the reality, which is what we saw in 2022, 2023 and all that, and the myth, which is that America is still world police. That has collapsed completely, utterly collapsed. And I think what's happening is that there are some serious discussions that have been going on for probably several years now, but at least in the last year, in the halls of power. Some people are doing some real soul searching about the reality of America's position in the world, and some realizations have been come to that these luxury beliefs of ESG and equity and intersectionality and wokeness and all of this, just utter nonsense, total luxury beliefs now have to be discarded. We just can't afford them. We just can't. They're too expensive, And not only are they unproductive, they're counterproductive. They're actually driving down our competence. They're driving down the faith that people have in America as an idea. They're essentially tanking the ideology of liberalism. And I don't just mean like the liberalism of Keith Olbermann or of, the Young Turks. I mean the liberalism of the French Revolution is now coming into question.
Yeah.
The whole thing is starting to, the bottom is starting to come out of it. The rug is starting to be pulled out from under all of that. And when that goes, oh boy, you better watch out. So they're aware. They're aware that this is happening. They're aware of the danger, and they want to fix it. They've come to the table now. They've stopped bargaining. They've gone through all the stages of grief. They've gone through the bargaining stage, and they're now just trying to fix it before the whole thing falls over. I think that's kind of what's driving all this.
Yeah, they've completely overplayed their hand, right? The center. So I have some acquaintances that I keep in contact with, guys that I worked with or whatever, that are kind of like basic bitch liberals, right? And I check in with them and yak with them once in a while just to see where they're at and stuff like that. They're kind of like the type. They're like fedora lords, like secular humanists, like the basic bitch kind of guys, right? I don't want to call them bitches because they're nice. If you meet them, they're nice guys. They're good guys. They're just fucking wrong, right? They are completely demoralized. All of them completely demoralized. Everybody around them is demoralized. They have given up. Just like the little bit of pushback. This one, we've taken L after L after L after L, and we're still here, right? They have taken one L, and now they're like throwing in the towel. Yeah. Right. But they have completely they've like ripped themselves apart. First of all, they have created too many splinter cells. The Palestine thing. Part of the reason that remember Kamala Harris started like marching out like Liz Cheney and like friendly going with the McCains, like making friends with the Bushes and like these like neocon pieces of shit. It's because they lost their friendship with the far left. The far left like considers them the enemy now. They lost that vote. So they were hoping that they could get some of they were hoping that there was enough like disgruntled conservatives that here's the deal is that these people are just, they're fucking idiots. People don't realize how like they think that there's these mastermind grand supervillains at the top that play out these plans and these machinations over centuries, and they're kind of these like omnipotent entities, and that's just not the fucking case, dude.
No.
Maybe they were far more cunning 50 years ago. Now their kids are fucking like these guys aren't that smart. They're not that smart. They're not as smart as they think they are, and they're not as smart as you think they are. So they have completely dropped the ball with that. They made everybody their enemy. They dropped the ball with the fucking immigration thing. They've completely trashed the economy. They took the L. Like they've completely failed stacking the L on the right and Trump for COVID, right? They've taken the complete blame for COVID. Everybody's mad about COVID forever, right? They've trashed the economy. They've trashed the trust of their own like radical left. They've trashed the geopolitics between Israel and Ukraine and all this stuff. And I'm not taking sides in the Ukraine-Russia thing. I don't give a fuck about geopolitics. I really, really don't. But the way that they've handled it is most Americans are like, let's stop giving them money. Why are we giving them money when we're poor? Right? I'm paying $5 a dozen for eggs, and you're giving money to these foreign people. Most Americans feel that way. You know what I mean? So they have lost that. They, statistics came in. They lost a lot of these people that they've imported over like the last however many decades. The ones that have been Americanized are like not on their side anymore. They've overestimated their ideological power versus religion and versus culture. How are you gonna for example, like second, third generation Hispanics, They completely lost that vote. You know why? Because those people are like Catholic and religious and superstitious and don't like shit. You can't go to like, a Dominican guy or a guy from El Salvador or a guy from wherever whose ancestors came from and be like, yo, here's some dudes. They ain't gonna fuck with that. They don't like that stuff at all. I'm not saying that those people should be here, but what I'm saying is that those people are here and they were supposed to be for the left and they voted the complete opposite way. They got blindsided, right? It was like I was having a lot of fun reading the spurgouts from white liberals, like literally becoming racist overnight because they were so mad at these people for not siding with them. You know why they don't side with you? Because you're weird and gross. It doesn't matter across the world. Doesn't matter where you go. Normal people, no matter like what ethnicity you come from, don't like weird and gross. They just don't. You're not going to win them over with that, right? So they've completely collapsed everything. They've lost their allies. They fucked up everything. So regular people have been like, well, here's what I'm dealing with is that gas is unaffordable. I'm like trying to pay for oil in my house. I can barely afford groceries. We're broke as a joke. Why would I vote for you guys? You guys I can't feed my kids with social justice, you fucking. At the end of the day, the main thing that people care about, first and foremost, is whether or not they're eating. If they're eating, then you can sell them on shit. If they ain't eating, you ain't selling them on shit. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah, and there's been a ton of downstream consequences. There's been a ton of flow on effects from the lockdowns, right? These people they got their head so far up their asshole and sniffing their ideological nether regions that they think that lockdowns just is not going to affect anything, right? The entire world economy essentially shut down for a couple of months. And a substantial portion of it remained shut down for 2 years, right? This does not happen. This is not going to go on without having some sort of a knock-on effect, right? And it's my view, there are good reasons to believe that although I certainly wouldn't call into question, obviously the disease was a real thing or whatever, let's not get into ridiculous territory. But I believe that all the lockdowns and the shenanigans, the election shenanigans and all that stuff was basically an excuse to convert the world into command economies for a little while, because these people saw a 2008 style crisis looming on the horizon and we're just like, oh shit, this is happening at the exact wrong time. This is the year where we're supposed to depose Trump from office. Their woke ideology is still kind of riding high. Everybody's still, high on their own supply kind of thing or whatever. It's still all about that stuff. And looky here, there's another cyclical 2008 style economic downturn looming. And this is not my conjecture. If you go back and you look at the articles, just go back, this is part of the reason why they tried to tank the Internet Archive recently. If you go back and you look at the articles from September 2019 through to about January of 2020, you will see a lot of articles that are saying, oh shit, flashing red signals, big economic crisis coming. You'll see these in mainstream journals, right? So anyway, that's conjecture, whatever. It may or may not be the case. I believe that basically this was a useful and opportunity to basically try to stave off something like that. But even if not, even if the economy was sort of fine and dandy, shutting down the world economy for an extended period of time is bound to have consequences, and we're feeling those consequences now, right? Like there's no get out of jail free card. There's no way for you to sort of avoid that, right? Actions have consequences, and shutting down the world economy for no fucking reason whatsoever for months and years at a time, well, we're starting to pay that cost now, right? Normal people are starting to feel the pinch. They put it off as long as they could, all kinds of ridiculous monetary policy sort of finagling and all that. You can't defer, you can't put off winter forever. And that's what's happened. That's what's coming. And people are feeling it. And I think that the regime has just basically sort of made peace with that things are about to get bad for a little while. And we got to put on our big boy pants. We got to actually start to get our shit together. Right.
Yeah.
So it's funny. And there's some schadenfreude there watching them really scramble. But you really see a lot of non-elites, but mouthpieces of the elites come crawling over to our side recently. I don't know, Dave, if you're familiar with this guy by the name of Chris Williamson. He's like a YouTuber, like sort of, I don't want to say Joe Rogan style, because he's got a different style of interview. But, he's an interviewer. He's a podcast interviewer guy who is, I watch his interviews quite a lot. He's really good, actually, and he's pretty smart. And he seems to have like pretty decent ideological priors. Anyway, he's been interviewing everybody for years. He's had some big name guests on his podcast. And one of the ones recently, two actually, that have come onto his podcast are the two like main players from the Young Turks. There's that Cenk Uygur guy, and then there's Anna, what's her name?
Kasparian, yeah.
Yeah. They've both come onto his podcast recently and basically said, like, look, I was on your guys' side the whole time.
Really?
Yeah, bro. You got to go watch these interviews, especially the Cenk Uygur thing. He's like, he comes on there and he starts off basically by saying that, like, I'm a populist. My political spectrum is elite versus populist and left versus right. And I am a left populist, right? Now, I don't watch the Young Turks. I don't care. I don't think they're interesting. But that seems to me to be quite a shift from, let's just say, 2016, 2017. Do you think he would have called himself a populist back then? I don't fucking think so. No fucking way, right? Whatever his beliefs are, he's calling himself something kind of different now. And Anna Kasparian came on there. I mean, I've only watched like 10 minutes of each of the interviews or whatever, because I just can't stand these people. But it's incredible how quickly they have come to heal, essentially. That they've stuck their finger up into the political winds. They can feel which way the wind is blowing. And they're trying very, very hard to make it seem like they were kind of like on the side of sanity and like not really big on this wokeness stuff from the beginning, which is absolutely absurd. Anybody that like had their eyes open for the last 2 or 3 years or more understands that that's not the case. But it's fascinating. And there's others as well. I was trying to think of who they were. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I've definitely seen half a dozen of these like, left kind of like alt media personalities or whatever, just come groveling over to the right now. And it's delicious to watch. I'm really enjoying it. It's fantastic watching them eat crow, and I hope they continue to do it for the foreseeable future. So it's incredible. I don't know how anybody can be black-pilled. I'm sorry. Anybody who's black-pilled about all of this, who's like, it's just a de-radicalization effort or whatever, is like, okay, there's a nuanced take there, but if that's sort of like your overall take, that's what you're really worried about, you need to get your head examined.
Yeah, you got to.
Things are looking really fucking good for us.
You got to keep in mind. So, pundits, people that are talking heads that go on these shows like the Young Turks and everything, that's their job. Their job is to do that. These are people that they do have some ideology. They're more ideological than some of the elites we were just talking about, but their job is to maintain popularity. Their job is to keep getting views, is to appease the people. And you learn this watching sports. Sports are, because there's really no difference between political pundits and sports pundits. They're the same exact people. So if you watch sports, for example, one of my favorites has to do with when they talk about basketball, right? When they talk about basketball, the pundits, their number one thing is to go and defend the sacred cows, right? Like, especially LeBron James. Everybody here has heard of LeBron James. LeBron James has been the sacred cow in basketball for years and years, but now he's getting old, et cetera, et cetera. There's this thing that happens, and I just think it's hilarious. When LeBron James is like playing good, they have to test the waters to see if it's okay to come out and say, like, LeBron James, he's still got it. He's left in the tank. How dare everybody? And they always act like it's the hottest take, right? They think, oh, LeBron James, he's still the king, still the GOAT. Oh, screw everybody that said otherwise. But the moment that he starts sucking, they go online and they go see if everybody's saying that LeBron's fallen off. And then they come out and they'll come out and say, I know that people don't want to hear this, and this might get me in trouble. It won't. This might get me in trouble, but LeBron James, he needs to call it a day. He's to hang his shoes up. This is what they do, and they pretend that it's a hot take, that they're on the edge. They cast this illusion that they are on the cutting edge, and what they're saying is spicy and dangerous and all this. And really, what they are is just like it's just a hair behind the shift. All pundits are exactly the same. All exactly the same. Except for maybe some of like the cows that have completely fallen off. The View. I don't even know why anybody's even talking about the View. You guys listening, follow Twitter accounts that get more views than the View. The View is so irrelevant. They're just like if everybody would just like stop. They're not a good lolcow. They're a bunch of fucking like harpy old ladies that are like. They're just so nobody gives a fuck about them. People can't even name a movie that Whoopi Goldberg was in anymore. I can't even think of why she's famous. Who gives a fuck about these people? Speaking of that, it's been pretty funny though, watching the clips of guys like John Fetterman and AOC doing interviews with the people from The View and telling them that they suck and they're wrong. Going on and be like I just watched this interview. John Fetterman went on there and said that the Trump court case was political lawfare, is completely politically motivated. He's like, it was a kangaroo court. Yeah. He's like, we're out here talking about social justice and criminal justice and fairness and equality and all this. He's like, meanwhile, we're running this kangaroo court against a political opponent, causing people to lose faith in these institutions. We can't do that. And of course, they're like, no, right? But that's how pundits are. So it's actually not surprising to me that the Young Turks they're going to take a more moderate center left position, right? And speaking of center left, also I really love the spurg out of the center right, right? The center right has been.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah. They're in complete damage control. They're so worried because. Here's the deal: is that the former center right, the guys maybe 5-6 years ago that were just straight up MAGA centrist center right Republicans or whatever are now talking about mass deportations. Are now talking about they're questioning liberalism. They're talking about isolationist economics. They're talking about they want Donald Trump to go in and what's it called? Force his cabinet picks in and override Congress. They don't give a fuck anymore. They don't care about the principles of democracy. Or they want Donald Trump to essentially be a strong man.
Yeah, they're just done being principled losers. They just want shit to get done, right?
They're done with it. They have shifted right. And what has happened is what's that fucking pussy's name on Twitter everybody makes fun of? I know you hate him too. I have no idea who the fuck he
James
is.
Lindsay.
James Lindsay.
Yeah.
I don't even know why he's relevant. I don't even know why.
It's because he's a creature of the system. He's totally astroturfed. Like there is no organic support for him whatsoever.
But
yeah,
go ahead. Like this.
Yeah, no, I was just like, I was thinking kind of on the same lines as you were saying that, is that like it's fantastic and also fascinating how the Young Turks have stepped over James Lindsay and Konstantin Kisin, like, you know, these like trigonometry, these like fucking absolute like cretins, these center left kind of gatekeepers, whatever. Anyway, what's happened, or the center right gatekeepers, what's happened is that people like, you know, Anna Kasparian, who like in their rightward shift that they're sort of like hastily scrambling to make to keep eyes on them and keep the clicks flowing and keep the updoots and the donations flowing, is their natural sort of like next step to sort of go a little bit to the right would be to go to like James Lindsay and the Konstantin Kisin, like these two guys trying to push this woke right meme or whatever, but they're not doing that. They're going further to the right than that, right? They've stepped over the center right, and they're going to people like Chris Williamson, people like Joe Rogan, and like, okay, like just a disclaimer here. When I say like stepping over the center right, I'm not trying to do any purity spiral like bullshit, like dumb fucking takes where people are like, libertarians are not center right, they're on the left, or like, you know, neo-reactionaries aren't center right, they're just left wing. Like, oh. You know, it's like anything short of like third position like fucking whatever is like, you know, center left. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let's be realistic here. The way that the political compass actually looks today, people like James Lindsay and this other like cretin are on the center right, and everybody is stepping over them. Nobody thinks they're interesting. James Lindsay is having this like schizophrenic break with reality where he's like worried about like the cult of the Archangel Michael like starting to you know, come back or like whatever. It's just like these people have nothing. They have no takes. They have no analysis. They have no insight. They are just basically there to hold up the regime, essentially, right? They're sort of the gatekeepers, and they've been trying to run this play of astroturfing this woke right meme for the last month or two or something, at least that long, right? Where the idea is basically like, you know, the woke left is the identitarian left, and like, you know, the far right is the identitarian right, and therefore they're the woke right. And this is like, that's not what it means, guy. Woke doesn't mean that. Woke means anti-white. And if there's an anti-white right, it's fucking you, okay?
Yeah.
Fucking dumb shit.
Idiot.
So I just
stupid idiot.
There's I don't know why, but it's like people who are like that, like the most like staunchest ideologically like purist classical liberals incense me more than the fucking far left. They do, like Steven Pinker or this James Lindsay guy or whatever. Like I hate it worse. I hate it worse than the other side. You know what I mean? Because like you, Dave, I'm not ideological, right? I want what is going to help my people. I want what's going to help my folk. And what's going to help my folk in the immediate, like short term, is those people being fucking destroyed. So anyway, sorry, I'm getting worked up here, but you know what I'm saying.
No, you're right. I would, you know, and I would sit down with like a fucking tanky, or, you know, there's this like American Communist Party that has popped up, and you know, they're like willing to talk to people and just be normal, and they're like, you know, whatever. And obviously, I don't agree with that shit at all. But you know, them as human beings, I don't like. It doesn't like give me a ride. I don't like want to punch them in the face. You know what I mean? This James Lindsay guy, I just want to punch him in his face because he's such a
he's so it's just so dumb too. Sorry to interrupt. It's like,
you're good.
Look, if I can understand how somebody would be like, let's try this like crazy ideology that's like never been implemented and like whatever, and like maybe this will work. Okay, like whatever. I don't have much time for that, but it's at least not insane. The guy who sits down and says, let's try this this ideology that has been in power for the last 300 years. It's like a recipe that has been followed to the letter for centuries now. And instead of producing like this lovely, like, puffy souffle or whatever, it's turned into a fucking radioactive nightmare that's about to, genocide swaths of the world over by suppressing their fertility rates and whatever. Classical liberalism has had its way for centuries, and it has devolved into this like Orwellian nightmare. And it's like, you just want to try that again? I got no time for that shit at all. I'm sorry.
Yeah, same.
I'm sorry again. I'm getting worked up because it just drives me so insane that somebody could even exist who thinks that is like reasonable.
Yeah, and also with a lot of these detractors have been abused by the left. Like Anna Kasparian, for example, she got like robbed by like some by some migrant or something, like beat her up and robbed her. I think that's a clip
I saw where she explained it.
Yeah, I can't remember who. Maybe it was a black guy or something. Like robbed her, like beat her up, and like I don't know what happened to her. She got like hurt. She got hurt and like traumatized, as a woman would in that situation. Yeah. And on top of it, she like came out and like said some very milquetoast shit about, I don't know, maybe like sex changes or something like that. And they like threatened to rape her, and she was like she was on the receiving end of the worst of people she thought were her friends. And she's like an older millennial, or maybe like a young Gen Xer, so she's like, she's from the time where the left was like, everybody gets free speech and we are here to talk about it rationally and secular this and blah blah blah. She's like from that era, so she wasn't ready to be like to deal with these creatures, these spiteful mutants that are like bloodthirsty, horrible, like terrible people. And so she's like abused. Apparently she got like dogpiled when she talked about getting robbed. They like shamed her for getting robbed and talking about it. And so she's like completely, so there's something that these personal experiences are overriding her shit, and now she's kind of like sort of becoming sympathetic to the right, and the boys have gotten in and they're like love bombing her, right? They're like, Anna, you look so beautiful today, the most beautiful this, and she's like, oh, thank you, right? So, that's the way you do it, right? So she's like, these people over here never say anything. They never compliment me, and they threaten to rape me and murder me and strangle me just for admitting that I got robbed. And then these guys over here tell me I'm beautiful. Like, what do you think she's going to do, bro? This is how women are. The Lauren Southern thing, for example, has like, I'm going to the left because these guys are mean to me, right? That is any woman in so-called politics is going to go with the side that love bombs them and is nice to them, and is going to go against most women. The entirety of their worldview and what they resent and go against is build up of all of the men that is representative of all of the men that have either rejected them or treated them like shit. That is it. Right. It's just like it's like a skyscraper. It's a stack of flapjacks, and each pancake is each dude that they hate throughout their life. And that is their ideology. Right. So if you stack on top the biggest pancake of these people treated me like shit, that's where they're going to be. That's where they're going to put the butter at. And that's where Anna Kasparian is, in my opinion. But yeah, this the woke right is like just hilarious and
completely failed to launch. It's just utterly like sputtered to a fucking like it didn't even get off the ground.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's actually funny to watch how badly it's failed.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is they come out with these like moral high ground. We have to make sure that we don't become the bad guys, and we have to maintain our. And then in the comments, it's just like regular people, like moms, like dudes with the sunglasses and the like "Make America Great Again" hats sitting in their truck, right? And they're like, "Fuck that! Destroy the left! Let's destroy them, crush them!" Right? You're a fucking pussy. You're a bitch and a cuck. We want to destroy the left. It's like, dog, you have like lost, bro. People are tired. Here's the deal. You cannot, like, speaking of personal experience, You can't, normal people, if you lock down the country, tank the economy, these people have had children and family members that have overdosed on drugs, committed suicide, lost their life savings, forced to take the jab or get fired, like all of this kind of shit over and over and over again. Now their town is completely overrun with third worlders that shit in the street and eat their pets. All of this kind of stuff. They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. You stacking all of these L's on top of these people. And then you're like, let's talk about principles and let's take the moral high ground, guys. That is not going to fly, bro.
Get the fuck out of here. There's no room for you.
Out of here.
You can't, like, you do not have a place in the public square if that's it. If your ideology is just like losing principled, being a principled loser over and over and over again, it's like, we can't win. That's against the rules. That's what they do. It's like, just shut the fuck up, lie the fuck down, and don't say anything. That's the best you can do if that's what your ideology is. Like, ugh.
It's fucking dickless. It's dickless.
It is. It's really just like low T, like lacking any initiative at all. It's like my grandma has higher T than you.
Yeah.
Fucking.
Yeah. Yeah. But another thing that has been interesting. This is like a political episode here. But another thing that's been
we could do these easily every day.
Oh my god!
Every week.
Oh my god! Just get on here and just like fucking yell about politics. But this meme of, I want to talk about this because we're the dads, right? We are the guys that have been pro dad. We are the kings of dadisms. The Wifejak meme and the reaction to it.
Yeah.
What's your take, Mike? Let me hear it.
So I have one take and only one take on Wifejak. It's going to be a little bit inside baseball for anybody that's listening to this outside of that isn't too familiar with Imperium. Basically, what Wifejak is this shibboleth that separates the Odinic people from the Tyrrhic people. Odinic people fucking hate Wifejak. Tyrrhic people love Wifejak. So for guys that don't know what that means, basically Odinic people are people who are kind of like, they like revolution. They're into like crazy ideas. They love pushing the boundaries. They're kind of like, they don't like ideology. They are sort of Machiavellian in their outlook on the world and things like that. For the most part, those people really don't like Wifejak. And for the most part, the people who are kind of more like traditionalist, they love where they're from. If anybody talks shit about like their home team or their state or their town or whatever, the fists start flying. You know what I mean? These are people who kind of don't really like to travel very much. These people love Wifejak.
Just say my name, bud. Just say it's me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you got some of the elements of the other side too. You don't like ideology, but anyway, these kind of like this conceptual schema between Odinic and Tyrrhic is like Wifejak is a perfect. It's like you couldn't come up with a better sorting algorithm for those two things. People who love what's close and familiar, they love what's normal. They don't like wacky shit too much. They love Wifejak, and people who are very like they like crazy stuff. They like pushing the boundaries. They don't think that normality is something to be held up as estimable. They don't like Wifejak, right? I myself have like a little bit of. I think some of the anti-Wifejak stuff is a little bit of a misunderstanding. One of the interesting things about this meme is it actually is kind of ambiguous. The way that I see it, my interpretation of it is as like, here are some of the annoying things, like the mildly annoying things that one's wife does. But at the end of the day, you still like her. You still care for her, right? Like when she's like the Wifejak meme, the one that I've seen the most of is where she's like, so what time did you come to bed last night? Right?
Yeah.
Which is a little bit of a low key. What's the word? It's a little bit of a whatever. Anyway, she's like trying not to seem pissed off, but she is. Thing, right? That's what all the Wojak memes. That's what all the Wifejak memes are that I've seen. Anyway, is all stuff like, because I'm not like, intensely online. I don't really go on Twitter very much, so I haven't been seeing some of the like dumber like iterations of the Wifejak meme. I've just been seeing the really, really, the ones that have gotten a lot of traction because I'm not very online and that's all I see. And everything that I do see of Wifejak is just her just basically being a mildly pissed off wife. So I don't think that the meme is meant to really be like, oh, my wife's the best or anything like that. It's meant to be like, yeah, that's the kind of shit women say. But anyway, she's kind of cute and it's endearing. I think that's what the Wifejak meme kind of is. And I think that there's been a little bit of misunderstanding on the one side that like hates Wifejak. Now there's some of it. I was listening to a stream of, I won't mention the person's name. It's not Academic Agent. I listened to his stream. It's somebody else who was like really just hates the Wifejak meme, because this person hates anything that is normal and is just sort of like wants everything to be striving for greatness and upward and all of that and everything. It's like, yeah, okay, yes, I get it. I am with you. But you have to understand that any great man, any Napoleon, had an army of husband jacks, had an army of Wifejak, like, the men who have married Wifejak. And no Napoleon in his right mind is going to be like, fuck that guy, because he's not going to gain power. Do you see what I mean? Like, power depends upon carving out a space for normality, letting it exist, and giving it a place in the sun. Like every society that has ever been built and that has ever built anything more than a little lean-to single-story shack in the jungle, every society that has progressed beyond that has been built upon the energy of the beta male, this heaving ocean of beta male energy. I know you don't like that term, Dave, but people know what I mean. The normal guy, the man in the street, right? He can't be on the throne. Obviously, he can't be on the throne. But any society that has no place in the sun for that guy is like never going to rise above the level of a band level society. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anybody that's like, fuck Wifejak, and fuck the husband Jack, whatever it's called, I forget the name. But anyway, anybody that's like, fuck that meme, is there like nothing more that we can strive for than that? It's like, I get it. I definitely get it. But if we start saying that sucks, that's where I get off the train. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. I'm pro Wifejak. I think Wifejak is great. I think it's a more wholesome. It's like a wholesome view of the dynamics between husband and wife, and kind of some of them are poking fun. Some of them are like, pointing out the quirks that women do, and X, Y. Like, one of my favorites is the indirect request Wifejaks, right? The trash needs to be taken out, or the trash can is full, right? Instead of saying, "Hey, can you take out the trash?" Like women do this, right? Yeah. They have this desire of their, they want their husband to, what would be the word?
They want him to realize that she's pissed off on his own initiative.
Yeah, or to like, what's the word? To perceive, not perceive, to like, I don't know. See their needs, right? Women want you to know what they need without saying it for some reason. I don't know why. Instead of being big girls and like saying it with their mouths, right? Yeah. They want, so they communicate indirectly. Like, my wife will say like, I wonder what we're gonna have for dinner tonight, instead of, hey, can you make dinner? Can you figure out what dinner's gonna be? Or she'll be like, this needs to get done. And a lot of time I'll protest. I'll be like, oh, wow. Well, it sure does need to get done. Right. And I'll just like press her to like say, like, hey, can you help me do this? Or, hey, can you do this? Because that's, talk to me, like say my name, talk to me, treat me like a human being. Right.
Yeah.
Don't just like announce it into the air and expect me to fucking whatever. Doesn't matter. Anyway, Wifejak. The Wifejak thing was like, I'm very pro-natalist, and I view a lot of the discourse and a lot of the positions to be this dichotomy of natalism versus anti-natalism. And a lot of the anti-natalists are very anti-Wifejak, right? And
yeah.
It's really a lot of the guys that are really anti-Wifejak are either guys that aren't seeing, like, sort of what you're talking about. Napoleon wasn't anti-husband jack, right? He understood that you need an army of husband jacks. They're being very selfish in their thing, because they're like, no, we need to strive for. Yeah, maybe you, bro. Maybe you are destined to be something other than a husband. 99% of your audience is not. 99% of your audience, the best thing that they can do, the highest thing that they can achieve, is to become a father. And in a time with collapsing birth rates, maybe it's a good idea to encourage behaviors and ideas and ideals that lead men to sire more children in an age where we need more children. Yeah. Period. That's the way that I see it, is that we need young men getting married and having children. You should get married before you're ready and have more children than you can afford. Period. And that's kind of what I want to put out there, because I can't tell you how many times, and I've talked about this many times, going out trick or treat and there's no kids around, going places and it's full of just old people and childless dog moms and cat dads and all this kind of shit. The childless millennial meme is death, right? And to give life, to create children, it is life and birth and vitality. What is vitalism? What is vitality if you're not having children? You know what I mean? It's like, that's the way that I see it. And a lot of the guys that I know that are like higher up, that have this, somewhat of a modern hero arc, have wives and children. And it only seems that the only people that don't have wives and children are spiteful mutants. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then on top of it, the spiteful mutants, Groypers and all these people coming out with these memes of like raping and murdering and defiling Wifejak and dismembering her, and like,
that's just like online edgelord bullshit. That's like, you just tell me you're serious, a politically unserious person, without telling me that you're politically unserious.
What human being is going to look at that and be like, and then you got guys like Andrew Tate coming out and saying, you should. He's like, well, you fuck wife cucks. You shouldn't have wives. You just knock up as many women as possible and let the kids fend for themselves. Let's create as many broken homes as possible. I hate my own kids. I hate kids. I hate women. I just want to get women pregnant and run. Like, dog, that is the most like ghetto horse shit. Like, isn't that it's so funny to me. These guys that are like the masculinity dudes are like, this age is evil. This age is rotten. This age is terrible. Also, I thrive in this age and you don't, because you suck. How is it that how is it that you don't?
It's like, let's. How about this for a political platform? Let's just purposefully, with the highest agency men in the world, create the reproductive, arrangements of the fucking ghetto. What a great idea, guy! Like that's a wonderful political platform. Why don't I hear more of your brilliant ideas?
It's a terrible fucking idea, dude. I grew up in poor white trash culture. Let me tell you. Fatherless children don't do well. The statistics back this up. Why would you want to create more fatherless children? Why don't you? Are you on the side? Like, are you on the side of let's win and have more children and demographics is destiny, like all this shit? Or are you guys all want to be on your own individual hero arc and sell this fantasy of heroism to people that'll never achieve it so you can make more money and get more clout? You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is why I'm saying that, like, you know, Wifejak haters are pretty much all Odinic people, right? And I'm not saying that everybody who is like critiquing Wifejak from whatever angle is agreeing with Andrew Tate, but the people who agree with Andrew Tate hate fucking Wifejak. You know what I mean? They do not like the idea of normality. They find it banal and silly and kind of like, you know, low IQ and beneath them ultimately. But no society in the world that is anything more than a footnote ever believed anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like every society that we remember, like grandeur of Rome, the British Empire, Egypt, all of these, like the ancient Chinese society, like the Zhou dynasty and all these things were fucking patriarchies.
Yeah.
They were ruled by fathers.
Yeah.
Can I make it any more clear, dude?
Yeah.
It's just
like,
so silly. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. It is. It's really silly, and I don't know. I don't like. I get some of the arguments of like they've kind of turned it into like they're against the henpecked husband, and that's a thing. I agree with that.
All right, I've got time for that. I'm against that too.
Yeah, you should. Sure. The henpecked husband is a horrible situation. The longhouse is a horrible situation. Yeah, I'm on your side with that. But this idea of like calling men that are married and have children, wife cucks, and
wife
it's just,
guy or whatever.
Yeah, wife guy. Like you're a wife guy. It's dog. Have these people saying wife guy. It's like they don't even. They're like, we're going for something greater. It's like, how is it that you're going for something greater when you can't even become a wife guy, half of you motherfuckers? You can't even like get a date. You're fucking hypergamy in the dating culture and blah, blah, blah. Dog, you can't even get a date. Like you can't even become a wife guy. You're like beneath wife guy. And you're saying, let's become something above that. How are you going to become above that?
Yeah. It's like anybody who wants to critique wife guy has to have a wife. At least, or have to have children or something. I'm not listening to any critiques from anybody who isn't that guy.
And also,
there have been some who are critiquing Wifejak that are married, have children. Okay, fair enough, but most of them don't.
Yeah, and I another thing I've realized is there's a lot of like homosexual presence and homosexual energy along with the Wifejak haters. There's like a lot of actual homosexuals and people that are in Congress with homosexuals. And here's the deal. I'll never ever side with anything that has a large amount of nithings ever. That's like that's a tax on my soul. That we're getting into religious territory of you guys that are out here hollering about Wifejak. Look around you and look at all the fudge packers, all the perverts that are around you agreeing with you. If you're getting a bunch of perverts and weirdos agreeing with you, then maybe you're onto something that ain't so good.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. The thing about it is that like, it's just so flown under my radar that I have only just kind of just barely noticed it, like the Wifejak thing. In fact, to be honest, Dave, I wouldn't have really even known much about it if I hadn't heard about it from you, because I know you got strong feelings about it and everything. I just can't believe it's become such a polarizing issue, that refuses to die. It's like a meme. Yeah, these memes and stuff like, I don't know, what was that, like mushroom guy? Do you remember that mushroom like Wojak meme from a couple of years ago or whatever? That's like, well, probably you don't, because it was such a non-thing. But it was huge for like 2 weeks and then it's gone or whatever. Yeah. This meme seems to have legs, and I don't know why it does. It might be because it's so ambiguous. I think that's why, is because different people see different things in that sphinx-like expression on the Wifejak's face. Right? Like some people see this, slightly pissed off wife. Some people see like, something that's nice and that's homey and that's really familiar or whatever. different people see different things in it. Nice, kind of an interesting Rorschach test, you know?
Yeah, it's I read this guy in one of my Telegram channels was writing up about Wifejak is an emanation of the hearth cult, right? And like a hearth goddess, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't know if I agree with it. I think it's a little bit of a reach, but I can see where he's coming from, and I kind of feel that I didn't really care that people like I thought it was kind of funny. People are getting mad about it or whatever, but I did start feeling personal when they started like dismembering and raping and saying evil shit about Wifejak, and I'm like, yo, so what do you think about my wife, dog? You know, say that about my wife, because I have a Wifejak. Say that about my wife. Say it to my face and see how fast I punch your teeth out of your fucking head, you cocksucker. You know what I mean? That's how I was feeling about it. I was getting mad feeling that because it became personal. And I think some of the people out there doing it meant it to be personal because I think that it struck a chord with them, right? That they were kind of faced with this reality that nature has chosen them to be disposable. Nature itself has chosen them to not reproduce. Right. And because of that, they can never their legacy is cooked. And this is a very cold, chilling realization of this. And instead of self-reflection, they turn it into resent.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying everybody, but there are a lot of people that's what it is. And I've read some people say like they feel like it's older guys flexing on people that haven't had that aren't like here we made it and you guys didn't, ha. And I never felt that way. I never said that, but I can see where people feel that kind of way. I don't know. I think that there's people that have good arguments about it, but I think that a lot of especially the more heinous, like the more fiery hatred towards the meme is a deep kind of knee-jerk reaction of them being forced to look in the mirror and they don't like it.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, and also interesting that, again, it's a bit of a blank canvas, right? Like some people say, the Wifejak meme is like it sucks because we're no longer striving for greatness, right? Like, people who are celebrating Wifejak for the banal sort of married life normality of that world need to up their game a little bit and aim a little higher, right? Like that's kind of the critique on the one side. And what Dave's saying is the critique on the other side is that, people are posting Wifejak memes as a flex, like stomping down from on high on people who are beneath them. How can those two things be the same? How can it be both? Well, it's interesting. It's interesting that it is both because it is a bit of a blank canvas. It's a bit of a Rorschach test, right? There's a kind of ambiguity to this thing that I think the ambiguity is probably part of why the meme has the currency and staying power that it has. I said I had only one take on it. This, it's a sorting mechanism, but I guess that would be my other take, is that it's pretty ambiguous, and the very ambiguity is part of what makes it interesting. Yeah,
it's kind of esoteric.
Yeah,
right? I actually think that the Wifejak has created a split that is going to be very hard to come back from. I really do think that, because it seems the Odinic and the Tyrrhic, I guess you could say the Tyrrhic right, are people that want to do like a slow build, that want to establish things, that want to, are more praxis-oriented people, right? Let's start businesses. Let's make families. Let's do real life stuff. And the people that are on the other side of Wifejak are sort of, I don't know where BAP stands on it. I guess he's probably, but are more like the Baptist of let's shit post and let's kind of rattle things and kind of subvert and question everything and all this kind of stuff. They want to kind of burn everything down, and the other side, like the Turk side, just want to build and establish and become more foundational, right? And these two things can work in tandem, but I think it has people questioning, like, what side is that guy really on? Does he really feel that? Does he feel that way about my wife? Because that's what I felt. Do you really feel that? Do you feel that way about your own wife? You hate your wife and you hate your kids. If you hate your wife and kids, then we're not really on the same side of things. If you hate my wife, we're definitely not on the same side of things. Because at the end of the day, if every single good husband, every single good man would burn this whole shit to the ground to protect his family, his family comes first above all else. There's no ideal, there's no abstraction that comes before the safety and the prosperity of his home. You know what I mean? So, I think it has left a lot of supposed wife guys wondering, do you guys, or would you guys go against? Do you guys really fantasize about murdering and defiling my wife? Do you want to put my family in danger for the sake of doing whatever it is, this journey of shit posting and subversion? Are you guys just subversive for the sake of subversive? Are you just here? Are you a suicide bomber just here to blow the whole shit up? Or are you like, you know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, it does sort of come down to this Odinic-Tyrrhic dichotomy where, and I get this too. So probably the most Tyrrhic thing that's ever existed in the history of the world is the ancestor cult, right? It's rooted, it's earthbound, it's traditional. It is like it's priestly. It's all of these things, right? It's everything that Faustianism is not. It's the anti-Faustianism, let's say. There's a bit of a, whatever. Faustianism is slightly different than Odinic, but I think most people understand what I'm saying. It's the people who, Imperium is known for promoting the ancestor cult as a important thing that needs to be revived. And the people who push back the most against that are the Odinic people. Always. They're always the ones who are saying stuff like, would you really obey your father? Like, even if he didn't believe in my pet ideology, even if he was, if he fought, it wouldn't be your dad, but if he fought in World War II on our side, would you really worship that kind of thing? These are the people who are making these kind of critiques. Or, would you really fight for your brother, even if he's a Democrat voter? This kind of thing. These people that kind of don't understand the deeper foundations of the political right in this more fundamental folkishness. You know what I mean? Like the loyalty to family being sort of the font and wellspring of all ideology. It's the Odinic people that don't really understand that, who are a little bit more sort of like married to ideals. I think that those people are the ones who are against all of this, and of course, what is the ancestor cult? But the ultimate sort of like family values thing, right? It's the strongest and most masculine and vital iteration of sort of like the 1950s conservative. You know what I mean? It's like the Bronze Age version of that kind of thing. Like that does sort of degrade it in significantly, but those two things are kind of related in a way. And it's that 1950s conservatism of the guy with the wife that's just like all about his family. and doesn't really give a shit about anything beyond that, right? That is kind of what the ancestor cult is. Let's be honest. I mean, the ancestor cult is like what I've said elsewhere as like the Odyssean. You know, we could call it the Tyrrhic. Most people are more familiar with Odysseus, right? Odysseus is he embodies the heroic return, whereby no, he doesn't give a shit about adventure. He doesn't care about, like, he doesn't want to be in the lair of the Cyclops. He doesn't want to be on Circe's island. He wants to get home, bro. He just wants to go back, see his wife, see his son, sacrifice a few hecatombs of oxen, get on with his fucking life, right? And yet, this is at the core. This is one of the pillars of the Western canon. You know, Odysseus is the ultimate wife guy. I'm sorry. You know? So it's important. This is what I've talked about in the chapter of the Cultured Thug Handbook about oikophilia, the love of the familiar. Anybody who doesn't have time for that should not be anywhere near power. You know, like it's part of being a real sovereign to understand what Odysseus is going through, the depth of rage that he feels when he gets back to his home and he finds it defiled by the suitors, and the slaughter that unfolds in the wake of that. That is wife guy energy. That is the Tyrrhic. That is the Odyssean. I know that this is like, we're getting a little esoteric talking about the Wifejak.
I like it. It's good.
But this is the same thing. It's the same. It's one of two halves that are properly need to be in balance within the folk soul of anybody who is a European. Whether you're a Greek or a Roman or a Germanic or a Celt or a Balt or a Slav, any of that, it all has these two parts. And if you love one part and hate the other, then you are pathological. And the part that loves the Odinic, this like striving, like, you know, for into the unknown horizons of all these idealistic sort of adventures and everything like that, but who hates the Odyssean or Odysseus. This is what we call Faustianism. And I think Faustianism is a disgusting aberration that needs to be killed. Faustianism needs to go, because that's what it is. It is the heuristic of the cancer cell applied to the Odinic. It's the infinite reproduction of this hatred of what's familiar, and that needs to go, bro. There's no room for that. It needs to go. Now, I'm not saying that everybody that critiques Wifejak is that, but there's definitely some people who are that, who are saying that, and anybody who is saying that shouldn't be part of the discourse. So, I'm not saying like Wifejak is awesome or that I love it or like I barely think about it at all. But this is the way I see it, sort of looking in from the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that take there. It's just, I don't know. It's hard. It's the way that I see it is, this is my thing. This is just how I am. I'm not here doing this, talking about politics is so fucking boring. Doing cultural commentary and shit is so. I want to grill. I want to play guitar. I want to go back. I want to win so I can go be normal and just go be myself. I don't really have. If this situation wasn't the way that it is, I would not be a contrarian. I would not be out talking about politics. I would not be doing any of that stuff. I would be just being Dave somewhere. You know what I mean? And it has kind of dawned on me that a lot of people, they do like doing this, and they don't want that. They don't want things to normalize. They don't want to win. They don't want to win because they kind of in this flux of chaos, in kind of the fomenting wolf age. They have purpose, or they at least they like it. They think it's fun, and I don't think it's fun. I hate it. I think it sucks. I want to destroy it. I want to
Yeah.
burn it the fuck down, and I want to build something that's comfy and chill and healthy and wholesome, because I love what is beautiful. I love what is beautiful. I love what is orderly. I love what is good. I love what is healthy. Those are the things that I care about. I don't want to subvert those things, because to me, those things are pillars that must stand forever. You know what I mean? I don't like fire for the sake of fire. That's not me. If that's who you are, maybe we're not on the same side of things, because it makes me wonder that when all's said and done and we stack the W and we've won, are you going to be happy going back to normality, or are you going to want to burn down and become the enemy? And it's like, so if you're going to be the enemy tomorrow, why are we allies today? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's like, I don't know, like people who are just like, I don't really trust people who are inherently revolutionary. I mean, there's one thing to be a revolutionary in the service of restoration. That has a purpose. But people who just like, are revolutionary because they like change. Like, that's how we fucking got here, dude. We got here because those people seized power. People who believed in that, right? The revolution has to be for a purpose, and that purpose is something settled and fixed, not something that's like, just contrarianism. You just hate what's, normal, or you hate the center. Hating the center is that's what liberalism is. If you could like formulate it in a pithy statement, liberalism is the replacement of the center with the margin forever. That's all it is, right? So that's not healthy and good. But I think there's a lot of people who are in the radical right who would not like to see us win. I mean, that seems kind of weird to say, but imagine what would actually happen if, let's just say, some of the thought leaders in the radical right were like tapped for positions to go into like advisory bodies, or like, actual to hold positions within the deep state or whatever. Imagine if that happened. Like, it's not going to happen, but imagine if it did, right? If we got closer to power, there would be a lot of people who are just sort of inherently constitutionally like contrarian and curmudgeons who don't fit in, that they don't fit into normal society, so they find a place in the radical right where they can be dysfunctional and accepted. Well, I think that those people, if we were to get closer to power, those people would be pushed out, right? People who are dysfunctional and like find their way into our scene because our scene is hated by the mainstream. For those people, it's not a political movement. For those people, it's a social scene. It's like the one place that will accept them where nowhere else will. And I'm sorry to say, but there's, a fair few of those people. This is why like Frothy Midyard is so good about like talking about policing like our spaces and pushing out that guy, right? Like people who are just ridiculous and what he calls the Jerry Springer right. We don't want the Jerry. Yeah, we don't want the Jerry Springer right. We don't want that guy, right? We want people who are committed to restoring normality. And then when normality is here, that they're happy with it. It's not a social scene. It is. I mean, and I love the people in it. I love the people who like interact with us and who are part of, in the Imperium chat and in the patron chat and friends of mine. I love those people, but none of those people are the Jerry Springer right. The people who are part of that, as Dave said, carnies, all these people. Would be quite happy to burn down what it is that we build and what it is that we restore when we do restore it. And that guy's not my ally.
Yeah. I'm like in all my spaces. Like here's the thing with these Spurgy guys is you can't explain to them that your behavior is why you get kicked out of these places. Like, oh, well, I'm right now because you don't like what I say and because that you're siding with the bad. It's like, dude, correct or not correct, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. the fact that you're such a fucking weirdo and socially inept and all this. And let me tell you, I am sympathetic to people, to guys that have had a rough go. You know, part of my life is dedicated to helping young guys. You know what I mean? I've helped a lot of young guys get out of the weirdness and, you know, pursue a more fulfilling life. You know, it's my job in my faith communities to do that. And so I'm sympathetic to that. But there are guys that don't want that. They don't want to go out and, you know, become normal and become successful. And it's just like, I just don't want those people around, because when you do start to establish, when you do start to catch W's, when you do start to build your stuff up, they will burn it down and they will betray you and backstab you, because they're not loyal to anything. They don't have loyalty as an ideal. Right. So I don't know. I just think I'm here because I hate people that want to that despise what is beautiful and good and healthy and natural. And how is it that we're on the same team if you also hate what is beautiful and good and natural? You know what I mean? I don't care if we agree on whatever current thing or ideological minutia or whatever. If you are disgusted by what is beautiful and what is good and what is true and what is healthy and natural, if you are disgusted by nature, then I don't know, dude. I just don't get it. I agree with Frody too. These carnies, these people that are like this, you just can't have them around. Because here's the deal, this is what we're talking about with the vibe shift. The vibe is shifting, has shifted. The world, a lot of our ideas are going to come to fruition. Now, obviously, everything's a negotiation. We're not going to see an absolute monarchy in America. You know, as much as we love that idea, we're not going to see an absolute monarchy. At least maybe not in our lifetime. Maybe we will, probably not. We're probably going to see we have to negotiate with power. Always. This is what some people don't understand. Like some of these Trump cabinet picks are pretty terrible. It's because you have to negotiate with power. You have to appease power. You have to negotiate with it, and you have to meet in the middle somewhere. So some of the picks are going to be terrible. And a lot of we're not going to get perfect, pure, utopian-based world. That's just not going to happen. We're going to get something in the middle. We're going to probably get, 20% of that. But once that 20% comes into being, the people that raged against Clown World are going to start to rage against our more normal world. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. I want what is beautiful and good and healthy and natural. And I don't know. I feel some kind of way. I guess I'm rambling.
Yeah, no, I get you. I'm there too. I inherently distrust people who are not white-pilled about winning. And there's never been a time in my life that we should be more white-pilled about winning. The mainstream is coming to us. Okay, yeah, they're not there. They, like Dave says, there's no absolute monarch. Like Trump, the dynasty of Donald Trump the first is still very far in the future. We're not there yet, but we are moving in the right direction. We have been moving in the right direction for quite some time now. And all the structural factors are in place that we can expect that it will continue to move in that direction as long as like good men, good guys, like what we see in our scene, continue to push in the same direction. There's basically nothing that can stop us. Like we're there and we're in it. We're moving in the right direction now, and everything's the stars seem to be aligning that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. And I've got no time for the perpetual loser mentality, none. So I think that it's a good heuristic. It's a good rule of thumb that like if anybody who thinks that like we're not winning or that like winning is going to kill off whatever it is that we're doing, I don't think those people are to be taken seriously. Now, I will say, for the sake of balance, that I think there is a real possibility of de-radicalization, and this is really just like this is me giving the charitable interpretation of the people that I'm critiquing here. I think that what the regime is doing is, number one, it's a play to right the ship, to stop it from capsizing and sinking to the bottom of the ocean. That's number one. But number two, I think that there are ideologues in the deep state, certainly in the neoconservative sphere, in the center-right sphere, that are, let's just say that they are constitutionally anti-white, even if they don't appear that way. These people are really worried about radicalization. There are some people that are very, very worried that what we are doing is starting to gain traction. And I think that this play towards, giving some concessions to Wifeguy, I think that does carry with it a risk of de-radicalization. But really, all that is required for that radicalization to continue as it needs to, I would say, is that individual men, particular men who are like thought leaders, people who understand the nature of power, need to continue to build institutions that will serve as the backbone to prevent any de-radicalization, right? We need to keep, like, Imperium needs to keep going. All these other, things that are starting to be built, like real, like IRL stuff, like real businesses. These things need to keep going and keep being built. I mean, where I can see, like, the error of the people who are like, de-radicalization is a big deal and a big risk. It is a risk, but it's not as much of a risk as they think, because what they think is driving it is, grassroots, bottom up energy that's coming from the people basically being sick of getting stepped on. That's not what's driving it. What's driving it is, as ever, particular people with vision who are driving things forward, right? And this includes people in the counter elite, people who are way far above our spheres. If de-radicalization is a worry, it's only a worry because those particular men are going to, like, step off the gas, right? But I don't think that's going to happen. I think all the structural factors are in place to prevent it from happening. I think that the play of the deep state to right the ship is not going to work. We still have deep structural rot at the heart of liberalism. The economy is not fixed. Even if they basically put, like, the most competent economists and do whatever they say into positions of power, it's not going to be fixed. Things are going to keep getting worse. Over the long term, they're going to keep getting worse. So I just don't think de-radicalization is really on the table over a course of decades and generations. I think that's going to keep going. What we need to do is we need to lay the foundations. We're not going to win tomorrow. This is another thing that people worried about de-radicalization seem to think, is that we're like 10 years away from victory. No, we're probably generations away from victory. They just don't have a realistic understanding of power and the way that social change happens. If you do have a realistic understanding of that, you understand that, radicalization is a bull market. It's not going anywhere. So I don't think it's worth worrying about too much. We do need to be vigilant, but that's my trying to be charitable and steel man the argument on the other side. I just don't think it flies.
So number one is, as people come to our side, they're going to hear about us kind of that sit on the outside a little bit, and they're going to look inside the box. They're going to look under the hood. Who do you want them to look under the hood at, right? Do you want them to look under the hood and see the Groypers, or should they look under the hood and see the culture dads? You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I'm going to be real with you guys. The culture dads, while we are more, we're more likable, we're more kind of normal, the Culture Dads audience, if we all got together and normal folks came to hang out with us, they would like us. Oh, wow, these guys are all right, and our ideas or whatever. The end result of our ideas versus the Groyper ideas are far more radical. Far more radical.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm a heathen. I'm not going to say it out loud. Everything my ancestors said was correct. In the world that my ancestors built, in the way that it was structured, everything about it was correct. And the world will not heal until that is back, and until the gods are back on their thrones, their rightful thrones, and we have that system once again and everything that comes with it. And that world is more radical than just about everybody that's scared about de-radicalization. They just want more. They want today with like some more woman hate and more racism. They're not ready for a caste system and an absolute monarch and some other things that I probably shouldn't say out loud.
Can't talk about those things.
That at the end, that is the end goal. And the way that I see it is I'm setting up my legacy to wage centuries of attrition against liberalism, to reinstill a proper folkish hierarchy forevermore. And that might sound pipe dream, that might sound utopian or whatever, exactly but that's how I feel. And I'm just like chapter 2 in a huge novel that has 50 chapters. That's the way that I see it.
Yeah, very much so. I think that's really true what Dave's saying there about how we are the truly radical option. Other people just want a restoration, but they want an incomplete restoration. They don't want to go back to truly before the rod had set in, right? You need to go back really fucking far for that. And that's the thing that guys are not ready for. This is why my Substack gets a lot of shit, because I write a lot about that. I write a lot about I don't think you guys are really actually ready for revolutionary politics. I don't think you are, because if you were, you would understand that we need to rip out some things that have been fundamental to the West for thousands of years. Thousands of years. Now, that doesn't mean we need to rip out everything that's happened in the last few thousand years. There are many things that are worth keeping, and there are many things that have been done that are great. But the fact is, for a immeasurably long time, the Son has governed the Father. We have put the roof at the foundation, and it's time to set things back to rights. It's time to set things back on a truly proper foundational structure. And that's what the dads want to do. And that's why anything that looks like a real serious social order is going to look like the dad in control. It's going to look like patriarchy. And when I say patriarchy, I don't just mean the rule of the incel over a wife that it isn't attracted to. I mean the rule of actual fathers. I think that anything short of that is just more liberalism. Sorry, it is. And that's what we're offering, and that's what nobody else is offering, pretty much.
Yeah. So accuse us wife guys of de-radicalization if you want, but at the end of the day, you better. I mean, we're
if you're gonna come at us, you better come at us with something real and not just like memes and vibes.
Yeah. But we like vibes too.
And we like the vibe shift. We're
like
winning.
The vibe shift.
Things have turned around in the last 24 months or so or more. Things are going in the right direction. I'm here for it, bro. I'm just watching it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm just enjoying being part of the sea change. And I don't know how anybody else is not. It's too bad. I hope that they change their mind.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. So we're on 2 hours here. Mr. Mike, do you have anything else you wanted to yak about? You want to shut it down?
No, I didn't have anything else. Yeah. Let's shut her down.
Right. Excellent. All right, dads, we love you guys, man. We appreciate you guys. But if you're not signed up already, make sure to go over to Culture Dads. That's culture with a K, culturedads.com, and get signed up to the Gumroad so you get so many great perks, such as hardback copies of the Western Canon series and beyond, Neo Reaction, all this kind of stuff, not Neo Reaction, Studies in Reaction. Lots of great stuff over there. You guys already know what's over there. So go over there, get signed up, help Imperium Press pursue their destiny to blossom into the institution that they were born to be, and save the Western canon from those who want to erase it, the scumbags. If you want to check out what I'm doing, make sure to go over to thebizarchives.com. Follow us on Twitter and Telegram at The Bizarchives. Get yourself a copy of Bizarchive 7. Get yourself a copy of the Culture Thug Handbook. It's flying off the shelves. Big money, big stuff, big wins. We're stacking dubs. The vibe has shifted. All that stuff. Speaking of vibe shift and Hearthfire Radio, guys, go over there, get signed up. You're gonna love it. Less than a pizza. It costs less. It's like half of a. You can't get a pizza for that anymore. For less than a pizza a month, you get all of your favorite content creators. Great stuff. You're gonna love it. Hearthfireradio.com. Go get signed up. You're gonna love that. What are my other plugs? I think that's it. Shout out to our big dog patron, Mr. Marvin. I forgot you. I'm sorry, Mr. Marvin. I forgot you in the beginning, but shout out to Mr. Marvin from Deutschland. Hails and blessings to him, and hails and blessings to all the KDADS out there. We love you guys, and we'll see you guys next week here on Culture Dads, Age of Sword and Cassette.